to the 301st edition of the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Matt Perkins. And a post-corner route across the Harpeth River from me here in the Music City, it's our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton.
What's up, Matt? It's world's largest outdoor cocktail party week. Georgia's coming off the bye. Got a lot to talk about. It's a great week. I'm excited. Hillwood football is officially in the history books.
Little Hillwood. Oh, I guess you're right. Hillwood football is officially in the history books because there's no more Hillwood High School anymore.
As far as football is concerned, yes, but we still have until May for the high school.
All right. Well, we can't get started without the third amigo in the second city. A man who is a pinball wizard. It's our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook.
Sorry with any tech delays and mishaps for me. Crazy rainstorm, weather storm here in Chicago. It might be messing with my internet. So if I are more pixelated than normal or my audio lags more than normal, it's act of God, I guess.
Okay, well,
Pixelated Pete.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose. All right. Well, before we get into it tonight, I want to remind you guys that we are, as always, are brought to you by betonline.ag. Football is back in full swing, and BetOnline remains your number one source for everything live betting when it comes to football. Latest odds, matchup info, player news, game trends, as well as live betting, free contests, live scores, giveaways, you name it, they've got it. Head on over to betonline.ag or use your mobile device to join and sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus using the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, gents, let's talk about some of the stuff that happened last week. And I want to start with the big ACC game, coach, because to me, this was the marquee matchup of the weekend alongside UCLA Oregon, which we will talk about here in just a couple minutes. But I want to start with the earlier game. It was the first game on the Saturday schedule, a battle for the best color orange in the ACC. And coach, Clemson comes out with a victory, but with even more of a quarterback controversy than they had going in. Coach Dabo Swinney has said that he is going to stick with DJ. Is he shooting the team in the foot moving forward by doing so? Should they be sticking with Cade, who came in and rescued the game for them against a Syracuse defense that was playing lights out for most of the game?
Stick with Cade, man. I don't understand it. Like, you got a guy that clearly won the job. Stick with him. He's clearly the better quarterback. He's been that way the whole time. I said it from the Georgia Tech game. He's the better quarterback. Even though DJ started playing better, I'll give him credit. But Cade Klubnik is the better quarterback, so he should stick with him. I mean, he came in, he has moxie, he has control, he had command of the offense, he looked comfortable, looked smooth in all of his throws. Without looking at the hardcore stats, it just passed the eye test first and foremost. That's the first test that you look at when you look at quarterbacks. Do they pass the eye test? And Cade Klubnik did. DJ Ungulale did not. He struggled mightily against this Syracuse defense, which I might add played a hell of a ball game until they ran out of gas.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, I got to be a little bit more pessimistic than you are because stats sometimes play a part in this. And Cade went 2 for 4 for 19 yards. So pretty small sample size against that Syracuse defense. I'm actually with Coach Swinney on this one. I think, I think there's not enough there yet to full go on to Cade, but if they incorporate him more and more into the offense and say against Notre Dame, Cade gets, 10 passing shots and he goes, 7 of 10 and DJ struggling again, then yeah, I think that adds more to the pile of evidence. But I just didn't see enough from Syracuse or from Cade against Syracuse to make that switch just yet. I think Syracuse just ran out of steam, and it was that simple. And it was pretty easy just turning around and handing the ball off and getting it done that way.
So looking big picture here in the ACC, one of the crazy thing, Clemson's already played 6 league games. No one else has played more than 4, I don't think. And so like they've got like this basically in their back pocket already. They're already 6-0 in league play. Who is the team that's going to challenge them? Is it going to be North Carolina? They are leading the other division at this point, but they don't even have a semblance of a defense. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But I mean, I don't know, Coach. Was Syracuse the best chance the ACC had to knock off Clemson?
Yep, it was. I think Wake Forest was one of those chances. They passed that test. Then Syracuse comes into town. They pass that test.
They passed the NC State test, like a full strength NC State test. Yep.
They caught Georgia Tech with Jeff Collins still there, so. Georgia Tech is a much different team now, but I think they would still pass that test. That's the next best team in that other division. I mean, that other division is sorry, dude. Pitt fell apart, so they're not even going to get a chance to test them. It won't matter. So no, the answer is
having a nice season.
They are, but they just dismantled Miami. By the way, the dude snapped the U over his leg. I was like, holy cow.
That was a phenomenal celebration. The snapping of the U. I thought that was a new that was a new and creative way. Because I mean, like the upside down U, like that's been done enough times for now. Like, but to break it over to break upside down and then breaking it over the leg was like chef's kiss, beautiful.
Josh, you need to create a meme of that with my pick of Miami to win the ACC and that guy snapping it into.
So, my pick of UCLA to win the Pac-12 did not look super hot here over the weekend because Chip Kelly and them boys went up to Autzen and got mollywopped, frankly. Their defense laid a gigantic egg and they turned the ball over and it did not turn out well, Josh, for my Bruins. My question to you then is, I mean, coming out of this game, who is Oregon? Are they the best team in the Pac-12, or like what did we learn about Oregon that we didn't know ahead of this one?
Well, I learned a couple things. So first of all, Oregon, I haven't really been tracking these types of stats for Oregon. I just been watching their games and looking at some of their offensive stuff. I haven't gone too deep into it, but they don't give up sacks. They've given up 1 sack all year. So that's a pretty good foundation for winning a whole lot of football games. They're giving Bo Nix ample time. We had seen flashes of Bo Nix being good at Auburn, but he basically was told, the rest of our team is crap, solve it. And some weeks Bo could, and some weeks Bo did not. Surrounded with a complete team, Bo is excelling the way we all thought he did after his prep career. It's nice to see him putting all the pieces together at Oregon, and I think that Oregon is the real deal. The opening day loss against Georgia, let's be honest, it was one of the best teams in the country. It was essentially a road game because it was in Atlanta. It was Bo Nix's first game with this new team. And I think Bo Nix went into it thinking, it's just like Auburn. I got to play hero ball. I got to do everything. And Dan Lanning really didn't know the full scope of the team that he had. I think Georgia and Oregon playing again this week at a truly neutral site, I think would be incredible. And I know a lot of people say a 46-point game disqualifies you from making the playoffs. But if the SEC only gets 1 team in, if it's just Ohio State or Michigan, that leaves a lot of interesting teams. Is it TCU? Is it Clemson? Is it Oregon? If TCU or Clemson stumble along the way, they're all going to be one loss. And Oregon's resume is racking up win after win after win. They just got a big one against UCLA. Washington, I think, Washington State's going to put some more wins together. I think Washington State could be ranked by the end of the season. Washington, they have a little bit later. Washington fell out of the rankings, but just came up with another win. They're a 6-win club right now. They'll have Utah, who's highly ranked to start the year. They're still like 14th right now. They've got Oregon State. Oregon State should be ranked. Oregon State's ranked in my poll. They just dismantled Colorado. So they're going to put together a nice schedule, and then they're going to get a Pac-12 title game against either a rematch with this UCLA team, who will probably be back by that point, a top 10 team again, or USC, who, if they win out and make the title game, will be a top 10 team again. So Oregon's going to have a really nice resume. It just depends on how much you want to hang on to a game all the way back in September.
Yeah, when you look at semantics, maybe if that's like, if you got two teams with similar resumes, you kind of have to. But Oregon's putting together a pretty impressive season. I mean, what they did against UCLA is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that was UCLA was a legit top 10 team coming into Autzen Stadium and just got completely dismantled from the word go. I mean, you tune that thing on and it was like, wasn't it like 17-3 to start the thing off? I kept seeing the score going up. I was like, okay, Oregon might be for real. Like this whole Bo Nix thing, he might have left that Bo Nix at Auburn. Or he left that Bo Nix in Atlanta. Well, when
the onside kick was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it was. That was a huge turning point too. I mean, that was
defense harassed DTR. I mean, it was good.
I'll tell you who's kind of sitting around staring at each other going, oh, frick, what are we doing? What does this mean for our job security? Is Gus Bus, who they just laid an egg, Central Florida did, Brian Harrison, and Mario Cristobal, because Bo Nix got better the second he left, and Oregon is about 200 times better than they were under Mario Cristobal. Not a fun day for the Canes, losing to Duke and then watching.
Oh God! Yeah, like I said, Duke I mean, is that the celebration? Is that like the Batman and Bane moment where Batman gets his back broken by Bane? Is that kind of moment that Duke did to Miami? I mean, my God, dude!
I haven't looked it
Talk
up.
About a program.
I haven't looked it up, but I feel like Middle Tennessee State has lost every game since they beat Miami.
They had nobody at homecoming last week against Western Kentucky. Nobody.
Well, I know Western Kentucky boat raced them. Let's
now that I can bring that up, I gotta look.
Let's move out of the ACC for the moment and talk about the Big 12, because I think the Big 12 probably had the best, maybe the best pair of games of any conference this weekend. We saw, big wins for both Oklahoma State and TCU. I want to start with Oklahoma State. They took down Texas, and Texas had been really hot, but Oklahoma State's defense for me really showed up for the first time this season, Coach. And I think
showed up late.
They showed up well. They showed up when it matters, and
that's all that matters.
It's in the Big 12. I mean, if showing up late means that you showed up, because most of the time there's no defense. But I think that
you're not lying.
We're on track for a rematch of last week's instant classic between TCU and Oklahoma State, I think.
Yeah,
Martinez
watching that Texas game. Watching Bijan Robinson, Quinn Ewers just get up to that big lead and then they just fell apart. Like, that's kind of Texas's MO right now, is they're good, they just can't hang on. And
Hold on.
State
wait. That reminds me of a team I've seen before. I think they played in Southern California, and I want to say it was like the early 2010s, maybe the mid 2010s. They had this coach. his first and last name started with the same letter, and now I can't forget it. It was at USC. Yeah, USC. He had been like an assistant there under oh God, what's
Steve Sarkisian.
Wait a second. Where does he coach now?
Texas.
Wait a second. Who would have guessed it?
Oh my gosh. Did we just become best friends?
We at least solved the mystery.
We did solve the mystery. Good job, Scoob.
So just FYI, I was right. I feel good. A little pat on my shoulder. Middle Tennessee is 0-3 since boat race in Miami. But to the game that you asked about, Matt. So in Sark's last like 10 losses or whatever, he's at Texas. He's like 10-10 or whatever. I can't remember. But I saw this mark that in like 10 recent losses, 6 of them, they held a lead. So he's clearly not making adjustments. He's not a very good in-game coach. You see it in the second half, held to just 3 points. And this is who Texas is. This is the hire they made. He was adequate at best at Washington. He was adequate at best at USC. He's going to be adequate at best at Texas. He's a really nice offensive coordinator. He's good to have when he's surrounded by a support system like Nick Saban. And I know every Alabama fan would say we will give anything to have Sark back. So he's a good offensive mind. It's just running a program is over him. And, you know, you see just stuff even like the whole like kerfuffle about the Eyes of Texas song where
how's that the big story here?
Yeah, like, you know, he walks off the field and the team follows him up, and that's his excuse about why he skipped the song and stuff. But it's like that just shows a lack of situational awareness to be like, oh, hey, there's this song that like our schools played after every game for like 100 years, and oops, I forgot about it. I mean, that's just poor management. I mean, it's just a microcosm of everything about him as a head coach. He's just, I wouldn't want him, and I have to deal with the Ferences.
Yikes.
That's
let's talk about something positive.
Yeah,
here.
let's talk about
Oklahoma State.
Okay, let's finish Oklahoma State on this game. Oklahoma.
Yeah, let's give some credit to Spencer Sanders, man. I mean, he was 34 for
you know,
57.
Oklahoma State fans, they're getting joy out of ragging on Texas. That's gift enough for them.
Yeah, I mean, 391 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught a pass, so
he put it up in the air now. Threw it 57
nice
times. I mean, this got back to the old Mike Gundy Oklahoma State that we got used to. They got they got pretty fancy on the ground there for a minute with Chuba Hubbard, but they just said, nah, we're just gonna drop back like 70 times this game. Why not?
Let's freaking go, man. Let's go. But yeah, Oklahoma State back to their winning ways here.
I'll give them some love too with those helmets. Those things were a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
I need to have those more often.
Those were gorgeous. Absolutely. I want to talk about TCU quickly. They followed up with no letdown against a really tough Kansas State team. They got a break. Adrian Martinez was injured for Kansas State, but
they've yet to play a starting quarterback for the whole game.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, actually.
How lucky.
I guess credit to their defense for tackling those guys with such ferocity.
I mean, I don't think we're not looking to hurt people out there, but you know, you can only play against who you play against. And
sometimes stuff happens. Iowa had a streak like this. It was crazy, probably a decade ago. There was like 4 or 5 games in a row where we knocked out the other team's starting quarterback, and I think Michigan, we knocked out both their starters. And it was just like, you know, it's just like Abdul Hodge and Chad Greenway probably. It's just like grown men, you know, slamming into the quarterback. Stuff happens. I'm not saying TCU's doing it deliberately. I'm just saying it's a bizarre streak to have happen.
Well, Will Howard had a not so bad game. I mean, he was 13 of 20 for 225 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, for a backup quarterback, that's pretty admirable. Deuce Vaughn did his thing.
It absolutely is.
Some team starters don't even put up those numbers.
I know. Only 12 carries for Deuce Vaughn, though. I mean, that's criminal.
Yeah, especially in that situation.
12 carries.
Well, let's talk about quarterbacks who can't hit those numbers in a full game. It's time to move to the Big Ten, Josh, and it's time to talk about what everybody's talking about. And that is
the Northwestern Iowa under.
The Northwestern Iowa under, which we will also be talking about later. However,
is the over-under set at 13?
We'll talk about that in spread formations. We're capping off the week with that one because it is particularly juicy. I want to go back though, talk about the Ohio State game, because of course Iowa scored 10 points and it was a defensive touchdown yet again, as to be expected, and then Ohio State broke the defense somehow, just broke the defense, and maybe it was the fact that the offense just didn't move the ball again, Josh. I don't know, but it seems like there was getting more. You've been leading this.
Didn't move the ball again,
Josh. You've been leading this fire, Brian, for a long time, for as long as he's been at Iowa, pretty much. And now the national media has finally caught on to what we've been talking about here for 6 years. But I mean, this was a pièce de résistance from Ferentz and company.
Well, I mean, all you need to know about the game is the Ohio State offense outscored the Iowa offense. The Iowa defense outscored the Iowa offense. And the Ohio State defense also outscored the Iowa offense. The Iowa offense produced 3 points. Look, the defense for Iowa, it was going to break down. It was going to get fatigued. We knew that was going to happen. But this was even beyond bottom of the barrel. This was beyond rock bottom. Iowa had 6 giveaways. They had a pick 6.
Josh, that's what we call two less. We call that 2 less than Miami on the giveaways.
Yeah, they had a pick 6 that was just an egregiously thrown ball. It's sad to say, but it was one of Spencer Petrus's best throw of the season. He's yet to hit a Iowa receiver that wide open in stride like that. It just happened to be for an Ohio State player. But I mean, here's the sad reality. Oh, they went 1 for 13, or what did they go? 1 for 13 on third down. I hadn't seen that stat till now. Fun times. Here's the reality of it.
Converted a fourth down, so I guess Brian Ferentz.
Yeah. Here's a fun stat. Also, here's a really fun stat. If you go by,
they only had 5 punts.
If you go by average rushing yards, so not total yards, but average rushing yards, one of the leading rushers for Iowa was Torrey Taylor, the punter. Went 4 yards on a fake punt on 4th and 10. So that's all you need to know about that one. But yeah, so here's the thing. Iowa is just a collision, a perfect crash collision of a whole bunch of terrible factors. You have Kirk Ferentz, who, the more things go bad, digs in and entrenches and becomes more surly with the media. He was asked about, what do you tell your defensive players after a game like this? And he goes, that's football. This was his same response from a few years ago when he had a total moronic coaching decision that cost us the Nebraska game. He totally blew that game. People were like, that was one of the few times his seat was legitimately hot, and he played it off saying, oh, that's football. And it's just like, F you, dude, you cannot do that. And so he's not obviously going to get rid of his son. Now, because of the state nepotism laws, Brian Ferentz technically reports to the athletic director, Gary Barta. Gary Barta is one of the worst athletic directors in the entire country. For my money, he is the worst. And Gary Barta makes an obscene amount of money, and the university the athletic department makes an obscene amount of money from football. So Kirk Ferentz is the goose that lays the golden egg. So Gary Barta is not going to upset that apple cart by getting rid of Brian Ferentz, even though Brian Ferentz technically reports directly to him. So we're stuck with these Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And what they are doing to these young men is negligent. It's shameful because Spencer Petras comes out there after every freaking game and answers questions to the media. But Ferentz has a long time policy that assistant coaches don't do media unless it's the bye week. So you're sending out a 22-year-old kid who is clearly way above his head. Even with right coaching, I just don't know. Spencer Petras' talent might not be there. With proper coaching, who knows? Maybe he could be a little bit better. But when you just kind of look at his accuracy and his foot speed, his intangibles, to me, he would have been a pretty nice group of five. Backup maybe a starter, definitely a starter in the FCS ranks, but not a Power 5 starter. But goes out there. His teammates still love him. He answers questions from the media every week. This is not on Spencer Petras because the coaches decided not to recruit another quarterback. The coaches decided not to hit up the transfer portal to improve a coach. They said, hey, we won 10 games with this kid last year. The offense was atrocious a year ago. The offense had nothing to do with those 10 wins. And they got completely exposed in the bowl game. They got completely exposed against Michigan. And then they had the audacity to tell us, oh, Padilla practices really well. We got utmost confidence in Padilla. First play, Padilla's in there. Fumbles the snap because he has never taken first team reps. He doesn't know the exchange. He doesn't know that center. It was plain as day to any person who knows anything about football. And then what do they do on the sideline after the fumble? They're quickly practicing their exchanges because he's never taken first team reps because the coaching staff refuses to let Padilla have any type of snaps. Because if they put in Padilla, it's admitting they messed up with Petras and they have the ego to not admit to any mistakes. So I feel awful for Petras. I feel awful for Padilla. Padilla throwing the ball, I don't know if he's much of an improvement over Spencer Petras, but he is faster. He's a more athletic quarterback. And with the terrible offensive line, who, oh, by the way, that's also under Brian Ferentz's purview as offensive coordinator. So he's responsible for the worst offense in Iowa football history. It's shameless. He's making $900,000 to roll out the worst frickin' offense in the entire country. And coming into this season, there were a lot of slack-jawed yokels in my Iowa fan base family that was like, well, if we get rid of Kirk, what happens? That'll make us the next Nebraska. Better to do the safe thing. And, we won 10 games last year. We won the division last year. I'm telling you, this fan base has had it. Kirk has burned up all of his love, all of his attention. He was looking at getting a statue on campus. He's the all-time winningest coach. And in 7 weeks of this season, they want him and his son out. And quite frankly, if Garrett Barta doesn't make that change, you're going to see empty Kinnick stadiums. My dad, season ticket holder, I don't know of him ever missing a game, was like, I'm not driving back for Iowa State. I'm not going to another game this year. And I was like, are you going to give your tickets away? And he goes, I don't want anyone in my seats. So he's just eating the tickets to try and contribute to having an empty stadium. That's what Iowa fans need to do. Gary Barta is going to say, well, we got our money. This game's a sellout, even though it's going to be an empty stadium. But Iowa fans just no-show the rest of the games. And just this team needs to be shamed. And we haven't even gotten into the other aspects of this program. There is still an ongoing lawsuit from former players about the racial disparity and racial mistreatment on this team, with Brian Ferentz prominently named in that, with allegations of him routinely making racist comments towards black players, including asking multiple black players if they were going to commit a crime later that day. It's why would any player want to play with this? Charlie Jones transferred, other players have transferred, Tyrone Tracy's transferred. If you're a skill position player, if you're an offensive player, why would you ever come to this university? And the fans were like, well, we're going to turn in Nebraska. This is going to be worse than Nebraska because Nebraska kept changing coaches when they sucked. These two coaches suck. And you have a really good interim coach on staff already with Phil Parker. He's a great defensive coordinator. Let him finish it out. You have an incredible young mind on your staff, former player LeVar Woods, who's the special teams coordinator, who the fan base is dying. They think that he's our own Jimmy Leonard, of a young mind who can come in and coach this team for another decade plus. And nothing's going to change this year. And honestly, it's going to take a miracle for something to change this offseason.
Well, hopefully, as a Badger fan, I want them to clean house. We will poach LeVar Woods, I should say, because they are in desperate need of a special teams coach, because Wisconsin special teams absolutely stinks. Okay, so I think that's enough on the Iowa situation from the past weekend. We can all breathe now, and we can take a moment.
It's just a Josh Cook therapy session. I see.
I think I marked about 6 different things that were potential social clips from that monologue.
Perfect.
So now we can continue to move forward with what else we saw this weekend. And, as the Badgers were not playing this weekend, I actually had a full day of just sitting in front of the television and never having to watch a commercial because I could click between channels at any time. And I saw a couple of things.
I like that you said the Badgers didn't play this weekend. They dominated Purdue. They beat the crap out of Purdue. I guess when you've beaten the same opponent for like 16 straight years, you...
Josh, they haven't Purdue hasn't beaten Wisconsin since before I enrolled. I think the last time Purdue
they haven't beaten Wisconsin since Kyle Orton's soul left his body on a last second fumble that cost them the game.
Scott Starks. Former guest on Believe in Badgers podcast. There's a plug. That was a great interview with Sparky. But what I did see though was some really, really bad football across the Big Ten Conference. Indiana and Rutgers, ugly. Northwestern and Maryland, hideous. Minnesota, Penn State. I mean, I guess it's good if you're Penn State.
Can I give Maryland a little bit of love?
I mean, I suppose.
This is the earliest they've had bowl eligibility in like 15 years.
True. But their schedule has been Charmin soft, like not even like soft.
Well, they did it with their backup quarterback, making his debut. So hats off to Maryland for that.
Okay, Coach, let's talk SEC. I want to talk LSU because LSU dismantled Ole Miss, and they are not the same team that we saw. Just look lost against Florida State in the opening weekend.
Yeah,
it's all about
team.
Family.
Yeah, Boudreaux is starting to really fit in.
He is. He finally ate some crawfish etouffee. He went down to Cafe Du Monde, got some beignets, and he gonna get this.
No, he did. He went to
Boudreaux, Yeah. Yeah, so no, I mean, honestly, you could tell this was a rivalry game, and this game means a lot for the LSU community because they played well above their heads at LSU. Jaden Daniels had himself a game, and that's being mild about it. And this LSU team coming down 17-3, looked. I mean, they didn't bat an eyelash. And they looked freaking dominant. So here's some stats to throw at you. Team stats. Total yards, 500 yards of total offense. They were 6 of 11 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down. They ran 76 plays, no turnovers, time of possession 36 minutes. Jaden Daniels, I said he had himself a game. He was 21 of 28. Talk about efficient for 248 yards and 2 tuds. Also rushing 23 carries for 121 yards and 3 tuds. Yeah. Had himself a ball game, folks. Had himself a ball game. And Ole Miss just looked lost, man. Jackson Dart looked lost. It was a thing of beauty watching
Ole
LSU.
Miss has to be.
I never thought I'd say that about a Brian Kelly team. That was a slap.
Yeah, Ole Miss has to feel
pretty.
Ole Miss has to feel pretty bad about, they had a giveaway. They had way more penalties. They had 10 penalties for 111 yards. And, they picked a bad day to have by far their worst game of the year. And,
couldn't get anything going in the run game at all.
Yeah. They have what on paper looks like a get right game, but, Kyle Field. I don't know why I almost said Aggie Field. Kyle Field.
Aggie land.
Gets those Aggies, down there at A&M.
There's a lot of issues at A&M right now.
Trapped cornered animal, though.
Yeah, they got 4 people suspended. Oh. Woo.
Maybe they could call Nick Saban and tell them how you suspend players for stuff.
Reportedly, I know it's not believe everything you read, but apparently the players were smoking weed in the locker room. Allegedly.
That is hardly the first time that has happened on a college campus.
Well, there's nothing reportedly about an Alabama player walking off the field, then walking back on the field to punch a 100-pound girl. So
he was afraid.
He was scared.
He was afraid.
This girl was obviously threatening him.
Clearly.
All 98
He's the same player that got ejected earlier in the season for throwing punches.
He was scared, man.
Nick Saban attends the Tom Osborne. Nick Saban attends the Tom Osborne School of Disciplining Players.
You haven't
with
lived
special adjunct
comes at you with a pom pom.
With special adjunct professor Urban Meyer.
All right. Well, are there anything else from the past weekend that you guys want to touch on before we hit some spread formations?
No. I think
there was something. I gotta find it. Sorry, I lost my notes. There was a game. I wanted to talk about
again, Josh.
No,
he's so disheveled from that Iowa.
No, but what I will say is I actually spent my Friday night watching Princeton Harvard, and Princeton. It's too bad Ivy League teams can't make the playoffs. Princeton's going to go undefeated this year, guys. They are on fire. Absolutely.
I think technically FCS.
Yeah, that's what I said. They wouldn't. Well, I mean, they wouldn't make the FCS playoff because they can't, because Ivy League schools can't play.
Is that the same with HBCUs?
Yes.
HBCUs.
Like Jackson State?
No, HBCUs can. Their conferences just seldom get invited. The games that I wanted to talk about. There we go. I found it in my notes. I don't know their cheer, so I'm just going to make up one. I think it goes TULANE. Go Tulane. They dominated Memphis. They moved to 7-1. Party like Sean King's down there in 1998. And then this one, you had 2 3-3 teams meeting in Big 12 action, and you're like, okay, it'll probably be kind of a competitive, maybe a sloppy affair with these two teams. 2 teams clearly trending in different directions. Texas Tech 48, West Virginia 10. I don't know if that's the final nail in the Neil Brown coffin, but that is a game that needs to be slightly competitive, and it was not.
All right. Well, I think that is it for Josh's musings here for the end of week 8. So as we get into week 9, it is time for us to get into our spread formations. And Coach, I just gotta say, I guess we all need to start listening to you more because, Coach, you've been on a heater. You had another great week last week, 5-1 against the spread. Coach, that brings you to 30-19 on the season.
Jesus, mate.
Well done,
Josh. You had another nice week, 4-2. You're not far behind, 28-21. And I am bringing up the rear. I was 500 last week at 3-3. I'm 25-24 on the season, just a tick over 500. Guys, 7 games on the docket this week. Big week here at Spread Formations. But we got to start with the world's largest outdoor cocktail party in Jacksonville, Florida. Coach, I'll just give the line quickly. The dogs are 22.5 point favorites. The over-under is 56.5. Two teams heading in very different directions. Florida started the season hot and is
sputtering,
nosediving. Yeah. But Coach, you're going first this week. So first of all, just give us your thoughts on the game and then give us your pick.
Well, Israel and I will go live on Thursday to give you a more in-depth look on Believe in Georgia Dogs. But the quick overview of this is it's been rare that I've seen a spread like this for this game. But, it shouldn't be taken lightly. It is a rivalry game. It is an intense rivalry game. So Florida hates Georgia with fiery, burning passion. So, we're going to get their best shot. But 22.5, the offense has refound itself. Stetson is finally settled back down, quit trying to win the game on every play. They will find ways to get Brock Bowers the ball, Kenny McIntosh, Dejon Edwards, Darnell Washington. I think A.D. Mitchell's due back as well, coming off the bye week. So the offense should be up and moving. The status of Jalen Carter still remains up in the air. If he comes back on this Georgia defense, I have zero doubts that they will cover this 22.5. But regardless of that, I do think they cover this 22.5. I think the offense is going to have a huge, huge day. Don't know about the over-under. I'm going to take the under because I don't think Florida's going to score a whole lot of points. So give me Georgia and the under.
Nice. You look at the trend in this series. More often than not, it's very, very close. But just recent data, last year, 34-7. I think Georgia is better than last year, as crazy as that is. And I think Florida's still kind of I think Florida's still figuring themselves out. First-year coach, a lot of issues there. So I'm with you, Coach. I think Georgia covers. I know it's a big number for this rivalry, but two programs in very different places.
I'm going to go ahead and take the over in this one. I think Georgia covers. Going to my head, I would pick Georgia, but I'm going to go on the over in this one. I weirdly feel like there's going to be points, and I'm usually an unders guy, but this is an overplay. Let's stick in the SEC. Kentucky and Tennessee are going to be facing off, Coach. And Tennessee, they got UT Martin after their big win against Alabama. So that was, it looked like for a second they wanted to blow it to UT Martin. It looked like for a second there that they want to do the single most Tennessee thing of all time and lose to UT Martin a week after beating Alabama. But they held on. Now, Kentucky is licking their wounds a little bit. They had a tough loss 2 weeks ago to Mississippi State, but they had the bye week to get right for this game. They've had 2 weeks to focus on it. I think this is a good spot for Kentucky, all things considered, but it's still not going to be an easy test, Coach. How do you feel about this one? What's your pick?
Well, last year was the biggest anomaly game I've ever seen, where you had a Kentucky team that held the ball for 43 minutes of time of possession, but lost 45-14. That was one of the weirdest stats I've ever seen. This game is in Knoxville, which I don't know if you guys know the atmosphere in Knoxville. It is worse than bonkers. And I think it'll be electric all over again because Kentucky is another one of those rivalry games where Tennessee does kind of own that rivalry, but a lot of tension there. So I think Tennessee covers this one easily, though. I think this is a bad matchup for Kentucky. I don't think they can hang with the speed of this Tennessee offense. I think Tennessee gets off to a fast start here, and Kentucky just can't hang and can't catch up. So I'm going to take the Vols here. Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt are having tremendous seasons. Jabari Small, they're going to get him going a little bit as well. And this Tennessee offense is going to be overwhelming.
Yeah, I've got Tennessee winning and covered as well. I just, Tennessee's on a collision course for Georgia. That's the game we all want to see. I think it's going to be happening. And the good news for Kentucky, though, I mean, they're 19th in the polls. This will be a quality loss. So based on the SEC poll rankings, Kentucky will probably move up into the top 15 despite losing.
Yeah, I got them at 14th after they lose by 18 points in Knoxville.
That's the SEC way, baby.
Yeah, so I also like the Vols. I also like the Vols to cover, and I love the over in this one as
first time,
well.
long time, Paul. I like the Vols to cover.
Paul, I think the Vols gonna put up a lot of points on that board. Put a lot of points up there in Neyland Stadium.
They're gonna light up that scoreboard, Paul. They're gonna test every bulb in it.
And then they're gonna light Tennessee River on fire afterwards.
I'll hang up and listen.
Paul, I think once they get added, Tennessee, their protected rival should be Texas. They play for the Davy Crockett Cup. They play in the Alamo Dome, and that's their number one rival. Whoever loses doesn't get to wear orange the rest of the year. I'll hang up and take your answer on the air. Long time, first time too, Paul.
First time, long time, Paul. Did a great job, Paul. But Tennessee, a great team, college football history. Hendon Hooker should win the Heisman Trophy. Go Vols. I'll hang up and listen.
Hey, Paul, you tell me why Josh Heupel shouldn't win the Nobel Prize for Peace and Economics. I'll hang up and listen.
He has single-handedly increased the gross domestic product of the city of Knoxville since, I don't know, General Neyland. I'll hang up and listen.
I still think my favorite call of the history of that show has to be, hey, Paul, first time, long time. I put poison on the trees at Auburn. The guy admitted to it on the air.
So and they found him. And he's in jail.
I had too much Bama in me.
That was even too much for Paul Feinbaum. He was just sitting there stunned.
I just going to piss a lot of people off. Roll damn Tide.
All right. Well, another team that's probably going to roll this weekend is Ohio State. Josh, you just saw them obliterate Iowa.
They're pretty good.
I mean, Ohio State's a 16-point favorite at Penn State. Penn State had a get-right game against Minnesota, who is falling apart. Oh, wait, who's surprised? Wait, no one. It's a PJ Fleck team. And
they're still going to win the West. Maybe.
No, Illinois is going to win the West, my friends. Illinois is going to run away with the West.
Yeah.
But Illinois would have to lose, I think, 3 games, 3 of their last 4, in order to not win the West at this point. It's something like that, or at least 2 of their next games. Anyhow, Ohio State's going to win the East. Or Michigan's going to win the East, but it's not going to be Penn State.
Unless Illinois upsets Michigan.
Ooh. Ohio State, Penn State, coach. Ohio State 16-point favorites on the road, over under 61.
They're scary, man. After that game against Iowa, I know it's Iowa, and I know we just spent an hour doing a therapy session for old Josh here, but Ohio State, I don't know if you know this, but they're pretty good at football. CJ Stroud is dialed in. This defense is playing not like the Sharman defense that I thought they would at the beginning of the season. They get better and better each and every week as the number 2 team in the country, and I think they get this cover, and I think we're going to see an over. So I'm going to take a 2-game parlay here, or 2-leg parlay, I should say. And I'm going to say Ohio State minus 16, and I'm going to take the over on this because I think there's going to be a lot of points scored, and I think Ohio State is going to score a lot of those.
Yeah, I'm making the exact same bets as you are. Matt said it was a get-right game for Minnesota. It's interesting when your get-right game you start out so slowly and so poorly that the home fans are booing your team.
That helped get them right. That helped get them right.
But another factor of this game that should be worth noting for why can't Penn State pull off this upset? Scheduling quirk. It's a Fox Big Dude kickoff. So no night game at Beaver Stadium, no whiteout, no crazy magic. Bad news for
It's not really a quirk. It's just Fox going, hey, there's no other games we can put at the big noon slot, so we can give Penn State a night game in this where they usually are more successful.
I disagree. Because
Really? No other games? They can't do Michigan State, Michigan. They had Iowa, Ohio State as their big dude kickoff.
No, they also have Oklahoma State, Kansas State. 12. Yeah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State is the game that should.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying the Fox guys are like, we need to get Ohio State on as much as we can in the big noon kickoff.
As if there isn't enough Ohio State
it's an Ohio State game.
I mean, it should be called the big snooze kickoff. I don't think Fox has had a good game in that slot. Although part of their problem is featuring Iowa multiple times in that game.
And last year they had Wisconsin in that game like 4 times, and they lost every single time.
They were just trying to jazz up the West with Gus Johnson. They're just trying to get eyeballs on the West. That was the agenda.
Put us on ESPN2 with Beth Mowens. That's where we should be. We should be the 11 o'clock ESPN2 kickoff game.
That is the ideal time for, I think, every Big West team or Big Ten West team, or the Big West.
It's the ideal time for Iowa.
You're right, because the ideal time for Northwestern is never. I'm also on Ohio State with both of you guys here. Let's talk about that Oklahoma State Kansas State game, Coach. Kansas State is a 1-point favorite at home. It looks like Adrian Martinez is going to play, but somehow Oklahoma State at Kansas State over under 56. What side are you on?
This seems like an easy one to me. It's pretty much a pick 'em, and I get a point to take the Cowboys. So pistols up. I'm going to also take the over here. Spencer Sanders is balling out, man, and I think he'll continue that trend this week against Kansas State. So give me the Pokes +1 and the over. Seems like some easy money there.
Josh.
You know me, I always ride that Kansas State bandwagon. I just don't see their defense being good enough this year, and the health of Martinez, even if he is playing, is a little bit of an unknown. So I'm going to take the Pokes, although I'm going to stay away from the over-under because there's a possibility if Kansas State's not fully healthy that they might not produce enough points to help with that.
And that is the exact reason that I am also taking Oklahoma State because of Kansas State's health. In the ACC, Pitt and North Carolina might have a defenseless bowl here. North Carolina is a 3-point favorite at home with an over-under of 65, Coach.
You know how, like, on walkthrough day, your offense, like, practices against air? That's what I envision this game to be like. Both offenses practicing against air. I don't have a single clue who's going to win this thing, so I'm going to stay completely away from the spread here, but I'm going to take the over because there is no defense, and this game's going to be in the 40s. It's going to be 40-something to 40-something. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be up there.
Josh, before you make this pick, worse at their job. Brian Ferentz coordinating offenses, Gene Chizik coordinating defenses.
Chizik at least has a track record. Ferentz has never done anything. Matt, here's a little trivia question for you. Who is Syracuse's offensive coordinator?
Oh, gosh. You're going to need to give me a hint.
He was Virginia's former offensive coordinator, and we've seen Virginia fall apart and Brennan Armstrong fall apart. Follow-up question, who is Nebraska's offensive coordinator?
But Nebraska's offensive coordinator
Mark
is
Whipple.
Well, yeah, the Whippinator.
There we go. So there was a trend to this. Virginia's offense has fallen apart, and Pittsburgh's offense has fallen apart. And I think it's safe to say that their offensive coordinators played a part in this. Keaton Slovis, it's a little dicey here to say the least. Here are some stats for everybody. He's at 1,300 yards. That's 87th in the country. 5 touchdowns, which is just 3 more than Spencer Petras. 5 interceptions. His QBR is 99th in the country at 42. His completion percentage right now is not great. And against top 25 teams, it's sub 60. I'm going to do the opposite of Coach, staying away from the over-under, because I want to make nice, easy money. And that is North Carolina is going to roll. I think North Carolina wins by 2-3 touchdowns. Pitt just does not have reliable quarterback play right now, and it's tanking their season.
I'm combining the two because I am taking UNC and the over. Give me all of those points, my friends. Okay, Cincinnati. We have
Matt
already
picks this game to do a 2-leg parlay.
Oh yeah, Cincinnati UCF. Let's go quickly. We've already hit our time limit. Coach, Cincinnati is a 1-point favorite on the road at UCF after the Gus bus started to fall apart last week.
Yeah, Cincinnati. I'm not taking the over-under, but Cincinnati's going to roll, dude. Cincinnati's going to destroy the Golden Knights.
Josh.
So here's the interesting thing. The ESPN Football Power Index says that the Knights are going to win, and the Gus bus is always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So are you catching the Knights on an upswing? Maybe, but I don't want to have money resting on that. So I'm going to take the Bearcats as a little bit more of a dependable thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bearcats are going to eat that upswing and then upswing the Golden Knights right back.
Yes, please. Yeah, give me Cincinnati all day. Finally, this is usually reserved for Colorado, but their line wasn't ridiculous. Also, quick news flash, guys. Colorado State has not one but 2 wins now, and they're both in conference, and they are, I believe, tied atop their division.
There we go.
In the city, but Colorado usually in the spot, not this week, because we had to do it. We had to do it. Northwestern and Iowa. Northwestern has yet to win on the North American continent. Iowa's offense has 2 less touchdowns than transfer receiver Charlie Jones does after he left at Purdue this entire season. Iowa is an 11-point favorite. The over-under is 37.5. Josh, what is their scoring average against?
Can Iowa score 11 points?
That's what I was trying to figure. Like, the defense can. The defense, honestly, Northwestern's offense is bad enough that I think the defense could. I could see this as a 2 defensive touchdowns, maybe a defensive touchdown, a safety, and a turnover that turns into a field goal kind of thing. But I mean, Coach, I'll let you take it here.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting out so the champion can finish out with his swan song and tip of the cap. So I'm gonna do that for Josh here, but I just don't see how either of these teams could be double-digit favorites. I feel like this is easy money to take Northwestern plus 11. They may win. They may cover the over by themselves and win 38-0 here. I could see that happening. I'm not going to touch this over under. It's freaking ridiculous, but I'm going to definitely take Northwestern plus 11.
All right. So coaches on that, I'm just on the under. I'm just going under 36. I'm just going under 37.5. I've got 14-13 written all over it. Josh, I'll let you bring us home.
Well, I'm taking the under as well.
Cover. If you take the under, it's got to be a Northwestern cover here.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. Making his first career start last week against Maryland was Northwestern quarterback Brendan Sullivan. He played pretty well against them. He's pretty dynamic with his feet, which helps with that terrible Northwestern offensive line. And if there's been one kind of bugaboo for Phil Parker's defenses, it has been mobile quarterbacks. So I think I'm also taking Northwestern because there's a very real possibility Northwestern pulls off this upset because last thing, anyone who knows anything about Northwestern Iowa football history, Pat Fitzgerald hates Iowa with a passion. This is his Super Bowl because the last game of the year, I think, or second to last game, something like that, when Northwestern was winning the conference, he breaks his leg against Iowa and he doesn't get to play in the Rose Bowl. And the year before that, when Northwestern was having a typically crappy season, Iowa beat the absolute snot out of Northwestern. And according to legend, while standing next to his coach, right about the handshake, my hat, Mr. Hayden Fry, goes up to Northwestern, and when they're supposed to be shaking hands, says in his droll Texas accent, "Well, hope we didn't hurt any of your boys too bad," and then walks off, maybe with or without shaking hands. I don't know about that part of the story. But so as a result, Fitzgerald cannot stand us. And basically, this is his Super Bowl.
All right. Well, I think that
So Iowa by 12.
all right. Well,
Iowa wins 12-0 with 4 field goals.
well, I think that is going to do it then here for us today on the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast, presented by BetOnline.ag and part of the Mike Farrell Sports Network and the Believe Network. We are all over the place. Part of the Arena Group. We got all the stuff going on here, presented by BetOnline.ag. So we'll be back again in a week's time. And until next time, on behalf of our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton, here in Nashville, Tennessee, and our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook, up there in Chicago, Illinois. This is Matt Perkins in Nashville saying so long and see you next time on the Legal Motion College Football Podcast.
So are we the men in the arena?
Why
If we're
not?
part of the arena group?
Why not? Let's be the men in the arena. Well, I don't know. I mean, his performance hasn't been that great so far this season.
That's true.
Maybe he's finally hit the wall.
Should I call the Feinbaum show with the most northern accent ever and be like, "Hello, Paul. First time, long time. What are your thoughts on Brian Ferentz?"
Paul. Hey, first time, long time, Paul. Paul Ferentz, get him out of there. He sucks.